All right. This is gonna be a really good one. I've been waiting this for a while. I opened a really good one for this. This is a congratulations. Ah, my brother of almost 20 years just released a masterpiece album. I mean, this is an album that drops once in a really long time. If you've been not listening, then you don't know who this guy is. But otherwise, no introductions needed. The last few albums have always been kind of game setters. Um, so the album is called Afrofuturism. It's out on Wax Industries, and they've been gracious enough to give away one tonight. So anyone who shares the episode to their own Facebook page will reach out to one of you guys and send you an album. With no further ado, uh, how do I put this? When I came to New York, we're talking about 2001, this guy was already a legend. I mean, we're the same age, but I always thought it was like a big brother to me. I learned hard and fast to try and follow him after his solo when I had to play a solo. But there's almost no one who had a voice that was that unique that early. And we're just going to talk about all things music. So welcome my brother in arms, the one and only Logan Richardson.
My bro, Dekel,
All
thank you for
right, all
having me,
right.
man. It's really really a great pleasure to be here with you and to get to break bread in this particular forum. So cheers to you and thank you for your love, man. Appreciate you.
So anyone who's just joining, I have a new album that just dropped. It's been doing absurdly well. I mean, I wasn't expecting any of it. And JazzTimes invited me to share some wisdom with a lot of my peers and some of my mentors. And it's been a wild ride. So this is kind of usually I have a set of lists and a list of questions to each guest, but this is kind of a free for all because we've been so close for so many years. So first of all, the new album. Tell me all about it. How did it come about? What was I have so many questions. What was the process? What was the
Well,
vision? Did it evolve over time? Was it like a fully formed idea? What? Give me the story.
well, with this particular album with Afrofuturism, we wanted to find a way to kind of give a 1.5 to Blues People,
Blues
which was
people.
the previous album, right? And Blues People, which we released on Rope-A-Dope, we were able to be given a an expression and a freedom, not only in the creation of the album inside of the studio process, but also in terms of how the album was released and distributed, and the way we were able to design and to put things or not put things depending on what it was, like just to make sure that the expression of the artist was always something that was foremost the presence of everything that was delivered. And so one thing that I learned really in the process of creating Blues People was I had been kind of producing tracks and whatnot. I started in GarageBand, then Logic. This is back in like 2008, 2009, and then stayed in Logic forever. And so I had all these kind of certain ones were like kind of full songs, kind of tracks, and then other ones were like
So,
just
so you
sketches.
had like a demo, like it wasn't like the jazz thing of coming with a chart and working it out in the studio. You had like a demo of what like an artist does. What what a music
Absolutely.
looks like.
Absolutely. That's
I'm
exactly
actually
what it was.
I'm trying to make this step right now. Like I'm
Right.
trying to
Yeah.
learn. Like I got an electric bass to put some bass to it, and like I'm trying to learn like Pro Tools and shit. Like just to
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah. Yeah. I really think that's the vibe. I mean, I think like the I mean, I'll put it this way at least. The way I was taught, and being born and raised in Kansas City, Missouri, in the time in which I was able to come
Wait.
up.
Is it true that you bought Bird's house and you live in it? Is that a true
Yeah,
story?
I mean, well, at least the first part of having, you know, inhabited and lived in and had the first studios and everything like that inside of Bird's house is definitely true. Since I've decided to kind of move and transition just back globally, kind of like to where the same concept that I developed while living there in Bird's house, I just many things developed in that time. But now being based in Rome, I wanted to be able to have like a more of an elastic kind of flexibility, that the responsibility that it would take to be able to kind of keep that place in Kansas City in that form didn't give me. But the one thing I will say is that in having lived in a house that Bird lived in and grew
Yeah,
up in for a period of his
wait.
life.
Just before you even continue the sentence, you realize how unbelievable that is, right? I mean, that's unbelievable.
You know, the thing is for me, yeah, I mean, I definitely understand that. I just, you know how it is, like when things become very surreal and it's almost like in a dreamlike state. That's literally what that is and will always be, even no matter how much it was an actual physical, tangible thing. And for me, I understand these different periods in life when you have incubation periods, and I have to say that that period in my life was, and it was kind of like after I went, like as blues people really signified kind of going home. That's why the whole band basically was from Kansas City, literally. Everything was like rooted back in where I was from, because that's where I had to,
Yeah,
after spending all this time in New York, all this time in Europe. Okay, now
I
it's time to
feel,
go back to
I feel
Kansas
this,
City.
I
Like,
feel the same way. Like this album that we just released, I recorded I was supposed to record in New York with a lot of the cats that we know,
right,
and we just ended up releasing the demos that we recorded in Tel Aviv with the local guys,
right.
and it sounds like Tel Aviv in a way. I mean, some of it I don't really like, but it does. I mean,
Yeah, but that's the vibe though. I mean, I feel the same way. Like sometimes, because you know, it's always like that. I think when you're from one place, then you go from another place to another place, and then you really engulf yourself inside of the traditions and the culture, and you really actually become that culture. Like you are validly that place. Then you feel certain inhibitions about your certain things about your roots. I mean, it's the same thing for me.
yeah,
Like, for example, like I can speak like this, where you hear me speaking, I guess, I don't know if there's an accent or not an accent, but it's pretty clear. Versus
of
where I'm
course,
from, everybody
of
speaks
course,
like this a little bit more.
of course.
And so it could be a little
All
bit
right.
more interesting to speak, you know, so it's like this type of vibe, right? And so, and for me, I understand this, but I understand that in the expression, in the end, I wouldn't be able to process things the way I do if I didn't have that thing that sometimes I try to fight. So these projects, Afrofuturism, really has been it's really what I call the 1.5 of blues people, which is
Ah,
obviously the
man,
title of the band.
you're
You
being too
know,
modest, man. You're being too
no,
modest. It's not. I've listened to both of them repeatedly and then some, and it's a real. You're one of the very few guys from our little group that's able to make a real huge leap between albums. I mean, it's really kind of unbelievable. If I consider the output starting with uh, Ethos. There was one before Ethos that you played.
Cerebral Flow, yeah, that
Cerebral
was
Flow
one.
that
Yeah,
was
yeah.
Osby's. Yes, and I mean every album was kind of a huge leap. And as much as I love blues people, I really do. This is quite the leap to for what it's worth. I mean,
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, I uh, I think that uh,
it's
the,
almost like there are like two or three blues people tracks on the album, but the rest of it is Logan's mind going like flying forward.
Yeah, well, the thing is that shows how you know my heart deeper than maybe even you knew, because that's exactly what I was gonna say. It's like really, that's why I didn't even market it as a Blues People album. Like, yeah, the band's on there, like we're doing our thing, but it was really more of a insight inside of like the direct like process of even where Blues People tracks come from, because it's like all of the tracks that we did started as tracks that I produced, and then I said I played in the studio, then the bass player copped that, and then drummer copped that, and then guitarist copped that, and then I still didn't have a melody, so then I literally, like on Blues People, I could tell you
Wait. What, you gotta elaborate on that. You didn't have a melody for what? Give me specifics.
no, like for Blues People, if we talk about Blues People, like, and I even treated Afrofuturism the same way. So like any of the melodies that you ever hear on those albums, the melodies were created the first time that I ever played the second. Because I played all the synths and the
I
keys
don't
and I
fucking
produced the shit.
believe you. I
So I
don't
just
believe you,
made
man.
the melody. No, I promise. Like, and usually they're first takes. Usually I just like, okay, that's the melody, cool, and I keep it moving. And so then I'll go back because I still have my jazz mind. Like I say jazz mind, meaning like what people would assume would mean like more notes and more whatever. And so
Listen. I hate to. This has to be said. When people, when people ask me about you, and when people ask about the New York days and blah blah blah, and everybody thinks of you as kind of this alto wizard slash magician virtuoso, and I always tell people the way this guy plays melody. I mean, he will play a melody that will stick in your head for a week. I mean,
yeah,
this
man,
is before they can record.
I only wanted to sing. That was like really I can't sing with my voice the way I would like to, the things in my head, but my saxophone, I can get a lot closer to it. And I just want to sing like, you think of all the great vocalists like Sarah Vaughan, Ella Fitzgerald, Carmen McRae, Billy Eckstein. Like, I just want to sing like that. And so,
Eckstein is Kansas City, right?
Yeah. I mean, well, you said who? I'm sorry.
I think Billy Eckstein was from Kansas City, wasn't it?
It's that I would have to check that out. Like someone that I wasn't actually hip to that is from Kansas City though, that nobody ever really mentions the way they do Charlie Parker, is Ben Webster though. Ben Webster's
Yeah,
from
for
Kansas
sure,
City.
for
Like,
sure.
and so it's like it's really interesting. Like, I mean, there's a lot of people from Kansas City actually secretly.
Anyways, let's move forward. So
Yeah,
we're talking about melody.
yeah.
I mean, I always think, like in everything that I do, that the hardest thing for an artist, like I want people to come to the concert or to listen to the album, and I want it to be like they read a novel or they go see a great movie. Like I want the narrative to go home with them, and I
Right.
always feel that to create a great melody is almost like the kind of melody that kind of stays with you as the most, that's the highest artistic form. So what does that
Absolutely.
mean to you? What does that mean to you? What's a great melody for you?
Well, I mean, I think a great melody for me always constitutes the in between. So obviously, like the target kind of places where people are singing the phrase or the words or the notes or whatever it may be, within the melody. I'm a sucker, and I've always been this this romantic for this in between space. Like if you're on a minor chord, and I guess this would be for the more technical listeners right now, and say you have a D minor chord, and say before you resolve to the minor third, you land on the perfect fourth, like in the minor, and then you go to the third. For me, I was talking to my lady the other night, and we were speaking about this, and for me, it's the same as when I present. Like you go somewhere and you could have gone to the minor, but you go a half step below to the diminished, and then you go to the minor up a half step. For me, that space.
That's like the Billy Strayhorn Upper Manhattan Miracle. They only go to minor.
Man, it destroys me every time. Like I just love I love it so much. And so for me, this feeling, I feel like melody needs to feel. And so I actually don't even care what it sounds like. If I felt everything inside of it, then it was everything that I needed. And so melody is something that speaks to you, something that sticks with you. It could have a bunch of notes in it, or it could not. my only jab at the modern scene in many ways, as I see it quoted today, is I see many people that seem to have the inability to be able to tie two whole notes together and make it say something. And so that's something that takes a certain level of skill, to be honest, because you have to believe in those 8 beats, like especially when it's at 45 BPM, you know. And I
I
really
think
value.
now that we're teaching all of us a little, it's amazing to me how the ones that didn't have the Winton generation before them, no one can play on a slow D flat blues or even like an A flat. If it's, I mean, just count like this kind of tempo, and it seems like the world is moving too fast for them.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the interesting thing when you quote unquote get older, but I don't think it's so much the difference in age as it is just the difference in culture around what you grew up and the people that were still there from another time. Really, they were like time
Completely,
travelers, basically.
completely.
So, but yeah, hopefully, but I guess that's where our duty comes in, to be able to pass along the knowledge to those that didn't have the opportunity to meet some of the great folks that we had a chance to know that unfortunately are not here anymore, you know. But it's all love, you know. And I think, you know, when I think about Afrofuturism, I really feel like I was saying, I feel like it's like the 1.5, because like the next one we're going to put out in March, April of 21 will be a full like second volume to the blues people kind of book. And really blues people, you know, like I was born in July of 1980. So for me, I am
You're a Leo, huh?
yeah,
I remember you being a Leo.
yeah, I'm Leo, Cancer rising, so I'm emotional as hell and very empathetic, but not as much as I should be probably, but on purpose, just because I feel like people take advantage of empathy. But in any case, that's a whole other discussion. I think that I like this idea of a sci-fi space, like any type of soundtrack to like Terminator, Blade Runner, anything like that. You're gonna get me like just everything flowing. Like, so the fact that all the modern day television series that are cool, like Black Mirror or Electric Dreams or Stranger Things, they all have this 1980s theme, even down to like the neon lights and whatever the colors that they're using
Yeah,
and stuff too.
that's
So
something we
that,
definitely have in common.
yeah, bro, that's my shit. And I just, you know, I'm really relishing in like trying to like create like the soundtrack of Sarah Connor, that woman that was a pregnant woman at the beginning of the apocalypse, in the beginning of like a return of like the
I mean,
machine.
doesn't that apply to any woman nowadays? I mean,
That's what I'm trying to say. It's like the Iron Woman, like that, and that's what the thing is that Afrofuturism for me really represents mother. Like I was trying to go back to this, that's what you'll see even on the tracks. Like I have a track called Awakening, where that's actually a snippet of a poem. My mom was like, I was on the phone with her, and she didn't know. I just took that on the phone, like a voice memo recording. Or no, I was in I was in Logic, and I was like, no, say that again. She read. She was like, I found this poem. I was cleaning the house, and I wrote this, and I said, and it was so beautiful. So I had her read it again, and then I recorded it in, and then I used it, and then do some work around that. And
I only really met your mom once, but I remember the pride that she held. I remember, I mean, talk about a proud woman, and for all the right reasons. I mean, what are we talking
yeah,
about?
no, I'm saying I wouldn't be like I wouldn't exist without her. This is somebody that understood the need for somebody that's never touched a saxophone to have a saxophone when they're a young teenager. That's a lot of belief in, you know, piano lessons and things like this. So I think that it's uh this is what I think about when I think about the totality of the things that are supposed to be difficult. I look at all of the things that were beyond difficult that people had to do only to provide me with an
Yeah,
opportunity to
yeah,
maybe have a chance. You know,
yeah.
this is
I feel the same way. Like, and as much as I hate saying this, I don't think even my siblings, I don't think they got the same kind of support that I did. I mean, It was just such concentrated effort to allow me to grow. And even the breaks, I mean, even the breaks that I got in New York, I mean, it's just absurd, man, absurd. Like
Right.
it took so many years for it to sink in to realize how huge that was. I mean, just to kind of
Right.
play with those people and to speak to them and kind of get, I mean, just the way they talk to you. I mean, that was wow. I,
Right.
I
For
I
sure.
can't agree more. I can't agree more with you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that personal value that we're able to find in the belief that people had for us, uh, essentially is the gold mass that everyone looks to get in regards to like the monetary compensation that comes back from things. Uh, because I'll just say this because I believe that when we're thinking about like the ethics and the things that go around like the economic situation that involves the arts and things like this is just a uh, kind of like a byproduct really of like the importance of what arts and culture and creation of such is in everyone's everyday life. You know, much like the person that creates like milk, they're naturally going to become fairly wealthy from making milk because people drink a lot of milk. And so it's the same with music or the same with movies or the same with anything else like that. One of the biggest things that I've been making an effort with any of the students or people that I work with, and this all ties back into Afrofuturism because it's kind of like dealing with definitely like the African diaspora and like everything coming back from like the roots of where the root of everything, in my opinion, comes from in various ways. But then looking at like how technology has played its role in the regards to where we are now and how we create and how we express and how we visualize. And the thing that I tell a lot of students that I have when I have workshops is like the importance of understanding the way that the world's economy has really been created surrounding the protection of intellectual property. And this is one of the deepest things that a lot of people don't understand because we're raised and we take these music business classes, which, you know, I don't want to say anything negative, but I will. Like, I'll say most of the ones that I had, like whether it was at New School or at Berkeley for the 1 year I was there before New School, it was garbage. Like because they
It
don't
wasn't
actually
it
tell
wasn't
you.
garbage. It was just detached from the times.
Well, yeah,
Completely
and
detached.
so that's the only reason it translates to garbage because I can't use it. So what do I do with anything in the kitchen I can't use? Trash. It's like so that's all I'm saying.
Listen, I
Sorry,
have to
I'm
tell
gonna
you,
keep it candid, but all love to everybody. I'm just saying that
listen,
like
Rich, I gotta
really.
tell you something that listen, I'm the biggest critic on this, and I'll tell you why. Biggest critic. Because everyone's complaining they don't have gigs, they don't have this, they don't have this, I don't have this, I don't have that, I don't have this. Only X amount of people came to the gig, only X amount of people bought the album. And my thing was always very simple. When you give someone something they cannot live without, there will be
Right,
people at the gig and there will be people buying the album and give them a gig they can never forget.
right,
Don't stand there checking your phone while the bass player is taking a solo. I
right, for
mean,
sure. Right,
I
right,
mean, go to a Radiohead concert, go to a Joshua Redman concert. I mean,
right,
people are screaming on the seats. It's
right.
it's just this is. Luz, can I curse on this show? It's not the Tuesday show, right? I mean, the motherfuckers can't play well enough, and that includes me, man. When I create music that people cannot live without, things will be thriving. It's that simple. I mean, we haven't risen to the challenge yet. The challenge that I mean, you kind of excluded from that statement, but most of us, I mean, I take full responsibility. I think most of the guys around in my generation, the ones there are many that are thriving, and they deserve every minute of it. It's kind of that simple to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there still was like like, you know, I've been thinking about this particular type of metaphoric analogy as much as possible. And I think that it's attributed to the same thing. It's we dealt in an industry where we were bred. Okay, imagine someone that works in Hungary or they work in Budapest or something like this, and they're the ones that make Air Jordans. Let's say the new special edition that costs 450 euro or dollars or pounds or wherever it comes out, right? Okay, cool. So, but actually, and they're still handmade, so they're not made on a machine or anything like that. They may use machines, but it's still people's hands using the machine, so they're handmade, right? Uh, so let's say that, and these people actually, when you get the shoe, you're like, damn, this is like one of the baddest shoes I've ever seen. Like, God, this is a work of art. It was somebody that got paid 8 cents an hour, probably barely had shoes on their feet, but they were a master craftsman. Master. They can sew.
So how do you bring this back? How do you bring this
So
back to jazz?
I bring it back to the thing because in these schools and in most of the institutions and shit, they breed, if they're lucky, master craftsmen that don't know shit about the industry. So we're like the ones that make Gucci that make 10 cents an hour, but Gucci sells it for 10,000 euro. So
I don't know. I don't think it's as simple as you say, because
I'm only talking about an aspect of it, but that's
I'll
definitely
give
an
you an
aspect
example
of
from Afrofuturism. I mean, if we just talk about the cover of the album, man, I love the album. You just created the cover of the year for me. I mean, the cover is brilliant.
And I have to say that the cover changed my entire concept of what art should be in terms of like how I want to present my own thing. And I can't take credit for the cover because that was done by a great artist, musically and artistically, visually, by the name of Laura Tagliatella, who's an Italian Neapolitan artist.
My favorite. I think she's my favorite.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, I mean, and that's actually been a quite a common keynote of the whole project is that many people have really, really loved the artwork from the beginning. So yeah,
I
that's been
think
really
I think that is a great metaphor to an artist taking full responsibility about what they're doing, how they present themselves, how they speak, what the album looks like, what the gig looks like, what the bass line is. And this is coming from by far the alto player of our generation. I mean, I can say it because I'm not you. It's that simple.
No, I greatly appreciate you. I mean, it's really been a great pleasure to be able to be given the gift of life every day, to get up and have another chance to try again. And honestly, that's like one of the things that I always hold the dearest to me daily is that, you know, we're all born rich if we actually woke up and saw the sun, you know, and that's really true, you know.
And if I want to take that back to jazz, when cats say that they're broke, I mean, I always say, what did you expect? I mean, are you happy with the music? Can you play body and soul in all 12 keys? Isn't that being rich? I mean, you can play this music, you can enjoy it, you can play it with people. I mean, that's huge. I mean, I got what I'm getting from this music is not something that any payday can give me, to be honest, on a daily basis. And I think this year shows that more than ever.
Yeah, I think that the sometimes the displacement of where things that hold the most value lie can be a grave situation for many. For me, I maintain just trying to be curious and to love the core of why I do what it is that I do. And it all started well before I knew anything about an industry or promoters or venues or things like that. So I keep it there 100%. Like I just, you know.
So I want to ask you about this exact thing. I don't, to be honest, when we were kids, I was just too embarrassed and too insecure to come to you for this kind of advice. But now that we're men, I think it's better to do it now than never again. So to play the way you play, I mean, I almost pulled up some pictures from today, but I just looked fat in them, so I didn't. So I mean, to be able to play the way you play on the horn, in the music, within the harmony, within space and time, what does that entail on a daily or a weekly or monthly basis? Like, what's the process for you with that horn that I heard when we were 21 and Walter heard when you guys were like 17, and it's prevalent in any time anyone hears you play?
Man, I have to say, I mean, for me, it's kind of it's a bit difficult to because I feel like so much of my genetic code with the music and with my horn in particular, there's no real separation. So I certainly can go, which I don't like to go long periods of time. And most musicians never like to admit that they go any period of time without ever touching their instrument. But for me, I have a different process because no matter what instrument you play, the physical matter is always the physical matter. So if your hands haven't been doing the thing that they're used to doing for 3 weeks, then it's not going to be the same as it was then when it was 3 weeks ago, especially if you just got off a tour, because then it's like super warm up, right? So for me, I've gotten past all this, like as I grew up, because when I was younger, I had a process where I was completely obsessed. I mean, I'm obsessed now, but like the obsession was like to such to where I woke up, I practiced saxophone. I would go to school at like, 6:30 a.m. Before school would even be open, wait at the band room, even if it would be locked, wait to get in just to practice even 10 minutes if I could, go to class, come back. I would even skip classes. I guess I'm not supposed to admit that, but I did, just to practice. And they let me because it was just, I went to a performing arts school and they were cool and whatever. I still was a good student on whatever level. And my whole thing is I was completely obsessed. And I'm still totally obsessed because I like imagining things like the depth of Art Tatum in its exact physical form, but like being executed on a saxophone, or the people that have given us like those excerpts, like whether it be Charlie Parker or Eric Dolphy or Ornette Coleman. Because for me, I feel like all these various players, like, and just speaking of the alto players on this side, they all have like culminations of this idea of the dexterity and the brilliance and the precision of Art Tatum, because he really brought everything together between rhythm, notes. It can be like one note, many notes. Like it's really like a play role of a film happening before my eyes. And so this is, I try to imagine different artists, like like a Miro, a Jackson Pollock. Like, how do I paint on canvas? Like, what does that sound like? And so I can forget about the kind of technical facilities that have given me an ability to be able to physically get around the instrument. It'll allow me to get outside of that, or better yet, to get deeper into that, so that I can actually not be as I don't know. It doesn't take bricks of the same exact diameter to make a perfectly built house. So there's a way to create all of these various different parameters and types of designs with the same type of precision. Some that couldn't even be explained, but because of the mere expression of the will and desire to create and to make. And so I think
That's beautiful, man.
yeah, I mean that's really the premise of like why I just try to like play. It's kind of hard to break down because I could give exercises, I could give different things that I've worked on,
No.
but
That wasn't my question.
yeah, absolutely, yeah, I know, for sure, for sure. I mean, but meaning some people would ask, they'd be like, yeah, no, I get what you're saying, like philosophically and whatnot, but like, could you? I mean, like, what did you work? I mean, like,
I don't care about your mantras, man. Give me
right?
the notes. I mean, can you write that down for me?
Yeah, yeah.
So let's talk. Let's talk about some albums that I know both of us love and both of us connect with. And
Absolutely.
the first and foremost, I mean, uh, Love Supreme. I mean, I always connect you with that album because you have this. You're on a mission from God, as the Blues Brothers say.
Yeah, bro. I mean, for me, it's like I only exist therefore because of my belief and faith in God. Absolutely, 100%.
And the album, any memories, any comments, any
I love
what does that mean in
Supreme.
your life?
I mean, at that point, when I first heard of Love Supreme, I would have been let me see, somewhere around between 15 and 16, because I didn't start playing the saxophone until I was 14, and I got introduced, like I first like listened to Bird. That was like the first person I heard, so I just really, that's the reason I started playing jazz, really,
This is
because
before or after you lived in his house.
this is before. This
I'm
is
gonna
like when
get
I was
over
like
it at some
15.
point,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
until I
No,
get
no,
over
yeah.
it, I'll keep mentioning it.
Yeah, no, I didn't live in this house until about 25 years
I'm joking,
after.
man. I'm
Like,
joking.
yeah, no, I know. No, but I found Train around 15 or 16 years old. The Giant Steps was first, and then Love Supreme came by around between 15 and 16. And yeah, I mean, I feel like it will feel like most interviews you hear from people where they're just like, oh my God, like the first time I heard this album, it changed my life. Yeah, of course. Like, I don't imagine anyone that's ever heard this album, whether they knew the idiom or anything like this or not, and heard it and it didn't change something about their belief in what they had around them. Just for me, it's something hard to speak on, because it's like, well, what opinion would I actually have that would be something that would be prolific in a sense? This is at least what happens in the back of my mind.
Let me ask you
Um,
this. Let me ask you
yeah,
this. As a friend of mine,
yes.
why do you think? What is it about this album that became folk art?
Well, I think if we do it in reverse, like I'll start with pop culture. I believe that there were melodies on this album that were catchy and that were easily singable to anyone, regardless if they were a trained musician or they were someone that just like listened to the Temptations or Michael Jackson or Stevie Wonder on the radio. I can let do da do da oh da. I can sing it. And then they
Yeah.
start singing "Oh, Love Supreme." Oh yeah, I can definitely get on that. They words. Oh great. Like, so from a popular perspective, of course, like, and that's that. And then pursuance da 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 da. Like, of
Yeah.
course, like I can sing everything. So that, from a pop perspective, it was a great pop album. But then when you look at the source of where everything was coming from and what this meant in terms of like the transition and the progression in one's life and the cleansing and the realizations and kind of epiphanies and whatnot, it's really a musical holy grail, not only in its generalization in terms of how people will speak of it, but in its actuality. It's really a great monument to the great John Coltrane and all of the tradition and the people that believed in him and what he was documenting in terms of a chapter, in terms of where he was in his life, and not to mention, like, if you think about, which is one thing I always like to point out, is just looking at the lives of Black people in the United States during the time in which all these albums would have been made, including Love Supreme. It's usually the part left out a lot of times when people talk about the bootlegs or the albums. It's like, yeah, that's really great.
Yeah.
Where they get all this energy? Well, it's like, yeah, they just
Yeah.
saw somebody hung in a tree 2 weeks ago. Like, this place just got burned down by the Ku Klux Klan.
Man,
Yeah,
I
so
have
that.
I have to tell you that this is something that when we were kids, I never felt comfortable enough or man enough to talk to you guys about this. I mean, we would do. I remember a session with Jameyer and Ambrose and you, and I was and me and another white kid, and I just felt so. I mean, I felt like I cannot talk about this, but nowadays, if you don't talk about it, I think you're just a motherfucker. And I think it's hard to, I think it's impossible to distinguish the culture from the music, and it can apply to Love Supreme, and it can apply to the Sand Wonder, uh, and I mean, just what you spoke about just now, uh, like the thing at the half note from '65, the Devil album, where you hear people like screaming from euphoria at the solos. I mean, I can just imagine what the club looked like. and just that culture, and people have to understand that that's why it resonates so strongly.
Yeah, no, I mean that's one of the things that was always like super uh I don't even know the word, very mystic about these environments. It was simply that they were environments. When you listen to these albums, they really transported you into this place. And I feel like the culture that you hear just documented in a 1 hour or couple of hour live album is something that I still yearn for,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
still feel like very seldomly have ever truly found, even in the, I don't even know how many years it's been now, almost 20-year in this particular realm of professional playing. And that's with great audiences and great cities and great countries and people that are coming through like hard. Trust me, you know, it's definitely been like amazing. I don't even know how many cities and towns and things like this I could spit out. But there's a freedom that still needs to be had in regards to the way that not only the audience but the bands and the artists and whatnot are able to express all within like one union and whatnot. So I mean, hopefully, you know, this whole period right now is the time of reset and the time that we can all reevaluate and find a way to be able to come back with something fresh and something a little bit
And I also think a lot of what you just said is about just playing chemistry. I mean, we can hear recordings of Twing with other people and the way the quartet formed. I mean, some of it is just chemistry. I mean,
absolutely.
I don't even have to love the guys in a band, but when the chemistry is there, there's no denying.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a fan of the idea that like people ask me, "Oh, what do you think of like this?" That I was like, man, you know, if like technique or amount of information or this type of thing is the thing that's being referenced as being like a deep form of expression, I typically will just run the other side in terms of the balance and say, well, I would prefer to hear something that has a tenth of the amount of technique or harmony, but every single thing that was played was
Yeah,
100% felt. Like for
yeah,
me, I'll
present.
take it
Yeah,
any day, you
present and
know?
meaningful.
Yep.
So if we speak about someone who's 100% felt, I want to speak about Christian Scott. That's a,
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean,
Absolutely.
for me, there's almost no one of our age group that has that sound on the horn. I mean, if we put the charisma and persona aside, give this guy, listen to one of his ballads, and that's the end of the story.
Yeah, that's my bro. Stretch music all day. I
So
mean, I think that
you've been touring with him for what, like a couple of years, 3 years now?
yeah, for sure. We've been touring. I mean, really kind of off and on since probably 15, but definitely really started in 16. So probably like the last 4 or 5 years. But even that's in his band. But before that, we did the Next Collective project that
Oh,
was on
right,
Concord Records. So
right.
that was the first real official Wax collaboration that we did. And Chris Dunn was the producer on that. And yeah, that was a good time. And yeah, since then we just done so many things. I've been to like just the entire world like 5 times. Like is like been like a whirlwind in terms of like the amounts of touring and audiences and stages and studios and places that we've been. And I have to say that he's one of the few trumpet players and holders of the throne that really for me it was like a very automatic kind of process in terms of playing, like, you know, very natural, no adjustment in any way, almost kind of like long lost brother or you know, this type of connection. And you know, we come across that, but it's a seldom thing, and specifically with the trumpet too and the alto horn, because they blend well, but also like personalities play a huge part in any instrument's role and how we
Always,
all come together, as you know. So
yeah,
you know,
always.
so yeah, so very beautiful, man. I love Christian, and yeah, definitely the Stretch Music album. is amazing. Ancestral Recall. And
Yeah,
he just put out
yeah,
the live joint, Axiom. Is that, I think that's the
yeah,
name of it.
yeah. That's it. That's it.
So
You got it.
yeah, so yeah, no, that's the vibe. And you know, Robodope's been firing up the engine forever. And Lewis already knows like the love that's been expressed there. We've had a chance to hang many times in Philly and at
Yeah,
the
yeah,
venue,
yeah, yeah.
and you know, so much love really all around for everybody that keeps pushing the
So,
guard and stays on top of everything, you know.
so let's talk about pushing the guard. Um, Brand from Marsalis. It's the only one I
Yep.
have in final. It's the only one I could find. So, uh, let's talk about the meaning of Ranford to our generation and for you as a saxophone player, because we've talked about this a lot. I mean, was it? I mean, anything you want to say would would fit this guy.
Yeah, I mean, Brantford is like it's impossible to be able to escape the level of mastery and kingdom that he is just in his name alone. His name is a brand, so you already know what that means when somebody's name is a brand. But fortunately, in the situation of Branford Marsalis, everything that backs up the name is like 1,000,000% beyond even what you felt the brand of the name meant. And as a saxophonist, composer, band leader, you know, total titan in the music and genetic, like, you know, ancestor of the music, just in terms of the blood that runs through his veins. This is like, you know, one of the most prolific saxophonists and artists that's ever graced the horn in the music and whatnot. For me, you know, I would see like what was it? Oh man, what is it? I'm trying to think.
I remember we used to listen to Dark Keys a lot.
Crazy people music. Dark Keys was like Dark Keys is like really like a super crazy one for me. Also Requiem. Um, I mean, there are like many Branford albums that were like really deep, but like really, you know, you always have your ones that you really find a way of digging into quite a bit. And Requiem and Dark Keys were two that really captured me. And obviously, I've checked out his previous work and everything. And I'm a huge fan. The fury, the ability to be able to be completely expletive and expressive with total concern and total care and total taste, but with a complete disregard for any restrictions that anyone may think you're supposed to have. This is an amazing balance that I aspire to be able to have someday.
I also think there's that I actually seen him play so many times with in so many bands, and I got to see him do like a double bill with a lot of other bands by well-known sax players, and it always seems like this guy takes the horn, put the horn in his mouth, and it's the end of the story. I mean, it's kind of unbelievable the power that he has, and
Yeah, I mean, you said it. I mean, it's the power of a master. Anytime you're in the realm in any form of a true master, um, that particular power that you speak of there is completely undeniable by anyone. You can like it, not like it. That's really even besides the point at that point, because you know what it is.
yeah.
And that's like the power. That's like a king's power.
So
So
my next
yeah.
vinyl, man. This is we're wishing Aaron. Aaron just became a dad yesterday. So Aaron, we love you guys.
Yes,
We hope you guys are
congratulations.
well, healthy, and relaxed, and back at home tomorrow or the day after. And congratulations on the son, the new son. But if we just talk about the music, this band shares a brother for both of us. They were just in Berlin, and man, and my fiance made Tommy those vegan cookies.
Oh wow, okay, right.
All of them were like, and I'm like, since when are we really bringing vegan cookies to a gig for some friends? Like, where's the dope?
Right,
But
right. Yeah, no,
times
doesn't exist.
changing. But let's talk about this band for a minute. It's a special band for our generation. A lot of close friends to both of us.
Yeah, bro. I mean, it was actually a great year last year because I got to bump into Little Big on the road a couple of times. I believe I was out with Christian. That was last year. And once we were in Brazil, and so we all got to hang in Brazil a little bit with the full band. Actually, several times. Actually, I'm tripping. Like there was another time in Kansas City. Actually, so yeah, all within 1 year, we were in Kansas City, Missouri, United States. I saw Little Big at the Blue Room at 18 Divine, and then we were at this festival in Brazil in Rio, and I saw them there. And then I also saw them. Oh yeah, I saw them again in Belgium at another festival. So it was like really great to get to see. And then of course, like getting to see my man Tommy Crane really did my heart well. That's my man. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, man, that I was sure that that album was edited. I mean, then you go to the gig and you see them play the same tunes, and it's like a two-headed monster the way they play unisons. That kind of blew me away. I mean, they play the melodies so much together. That is, it's not something you see every day.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's very special. I mean, that's what the 2020s have to look out for, is that there are bands and artists that have been brewing for like fine wine. And you know what happens when you sip a wine that's been brewing for a little while? That shit always has a certain spank on it that you can't find in another brewer or harvest. And so that's what I'm very excited about. That, and also in addition to like the youth that are coming, like the young 12, 13, 14-year-olds, because I see little clips of certain people I haven't met or don't know who they are, but they're sounding really great. So I think that everything's in great hands right now, considering we're all dealing with a transition right now, but it's all meant for the betterment of how we're to grow and whatnot. So, I
Completely.
firmly believe that,
Completely. Like I don't think I think that there's so much political tension, racial tension, gender tension that is brewing right now that could have never come to light in the same way in any other year. That has
Right.
to come to light. This has to be addressed. I
Right.
mean,
100%. 100%.
we cannot go on until this shit is dealt with.
Right. I mean, that's where, I mean, it's been there for a long time, as you know, and I think that just given the sensitivity of the nature of what we all thought was like a singular uh epidemic, ended up becoming like a framework for many other epidemics that were going on. And now we're in a space of true transition. Politically speaking, shit's crazy. And in terms of just like artistically, it's a renaissance right now. So there are those that are choosing to pay attention to the time of renewal and the time of new and the time of making everything that's ever existed before really exist in its truest form as it can now, by respecting our masters as well that are still alive
I want
and
to talk
well
to you about.
playing.
I want to talk to you about masters because we've been mentored by some of the same people, whether it's Jabali or Workman, a lot of the Harper, a lot of these guys. But uh, I don't know if I get to mention this to you, but I play guitar. I love that instrument.
Yeah. I know that. Yeah, I knew that.
You've noticed. So I want to talk to you about. There's only one guy for me. I mean, any day of the year, there's only one guy. People always ask me about this guy or that guy or that guy or this guy, the younger guy or master. But for my money, there's no one that can stay on stage with Pat Metheny. No one. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, you record an album. I mean, Pat sometimes does one track for someone as a guest, and then he goes and play on your whole album. I mean, this is unheard of. It only happened like once with Kenny Garrett and another time with Joshua Redman.
Yeah, I mean, for Pat's I mean, like, everybody in my life, Pat is a very special person for me. And I wouldn't be able to really express like in all the many ways of what he means from my childhood all the way up to the man that I am now. But in short, I could say that his overwhelming love and belief in me well before we ever even had a chance to really physically meet, because really I was doing a concert with Jason Moran at Town Hall in 2009 for the anniversary of Thelonious Monk's Town Hall concert, 50-year anniversary. And unbeknownst to me, amongst everybody else who was in the audience, Pat Metheny was there. But I didn't know, and he had sent me an email that evening or early the next morning. I got it the next morning when I woke up, and I remember I was living in Jersey City at the time. It was towards the end of the time I was living in New York, and I, got up and I saw this email and it said, Pat Metheny, like in the the sender, and I was like, but I was just thinking, oh, it must be like family. I was like, but it was weird because I wasn't on a Pat Metheny fan like email list or anything. And so then I opened it and it was just like, hey, from Pat, and it was just like, just email, like, just saying hi. And, he had, known about me from his brother, Mike Metheny, who lives in Kansas City. And, Mike had known me since I was a teenager. And I guess he had been telling Pat about me since I was a teenager, but I didn't know any of this until, I'm like, 28 or 29 at that point. And, Pat's telling me all these things. And he was like, oh, yeah, by the way, I was at Town Hall the other night. Great concert, man. I really love that, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I really love Jason and Nasheed and, Tars and everybody in just the band, And I was, I've been writing all this music and, man, it's like, obviously from even my previous albums, you can tell how much I love guitar because I've never had an album without guitar. That's like the one instrument aside of saxophone that's in drums that's literally been on every album. And so
I also remember
like,
you actually writing the guitar parts. Like I would get a chart, there would be a part, and it was amazing.
yeah, I mean, it could be something like maybe it's like from being from the Midwest or something like this, but it's just like, I mean, also like one of my great influences, aside of like, people like Walter Smith or Keon Harrell, was another guy by the name of Jake Blanton, who's was a absolute phenom at 16 on guitar from Kansas City, went to the same school, same neighborhood, everything. Now he plays like, still plays guitar, plays bass, does production, plays with like, Brian Flowers and the Dark Keys and things like that. So he's out there busy, you'll see him. But keep in mind that nobody knows secretly that this dude on guitar is like a samurai on jazz guitar. You would never know. Like at this point, nobody would never know for what they know him for on the other side. Trust me. Like even if he hasn't touched a jazz line in 10 years, there's no way that he's not. It's impossible. Like it's ridiculous. Like ask anybody who knows. Like ask Keon about Jake Blanton. He'll tell you. Like remember that name.
I just spoke to Key this morning, man. This is almost no one I love that much.
Yeah, bro, that's what I mean. St. Louis is like, there was a lot of influence around when we were, young like that. So anyway, I mean, I think that the biggest thing for me is like really trying to find a way to be able to allow all the influences that were fed by everyone that's loved us and appreciated us. And Pat really was able to give this for me, it's overwhelming in terms of the amount of love and incorporation that he had. And I reached out and I was like, hey, I got back with an email and said, oh, thank you so much. It's really great to meet you and so on and so forth. And I immediately was like, yeah, I'm working on a new project and, I have Jason Moran and Nasheed Waits and I think on bass, I still hadn't gotten Harish, but it was Harish. Yeah, but it was Harish. I just hadn't actually literally sent him an email yet. And I was sending Pat the email right before. And then and he got back and I was asking me just that, what you said. I was like, yeah, just assuming like everything. I was just like, I didn't know if it possibly get you on a track or two or something like this. And he wrote back and he was just like, man, he was like, look, I, be interested in doing it. Like, and that was already crazy. Like, I was like, oh shit. Like, and then he was just like, but, my only thing is that, as you know, I've only been on a couple of albums. Like it's a side man, it's like it's like between like I think Brecker, like you said, Joshua Redman, Ornette, and Kenny Garrett. That's pretty much in terms of like those type, and Dewey Redman. I think it's like those, you got those out, but it's like, I mean, come on, like who are the people that I just mentioned? Like trust me, I'm not oblivious. Like and so, but he was just like, look, my only request is that like instead of just being on a couple tracks, I'd like to be on the whole album. I said, okay. That sounds great. So yeah, and after that, it was just like, yeah, going through labels and channeling all the various things that you learn through the music business and publishing and various things. And then we found our way to Blue Note in Japan and Universal Music, and yeah,
Man, there's almost I don't really get in all of the projects that I'm doing, whether it's like film stars or God knows what, or actors, or blah blah blah, or chefs or whatever. I never kind of get starstruck. I mean, playing with Meta with the Philharmonic, but every time I meet Pat, I'm like this. I'm a kid looking at the posters on my wall again. I mean, I get like a giddy little kid.
No, absolutely, makes 1,000% sense. I remember the first time I met Pat in person, like, 'cause like I said, we had been in contact, and then eventually, like, I don't even know. This is like maybe a year and a half before we recorded the album, but we're going to record the album for years. And I went over to his house and we hung out and played duo and whatnot, and just hung a bit. And I remember when he answered the door, man, it was crazy because it was just like, it was very much like, this is Pat Metheny answering his door, like to his house. Like it wasn't normal, like in the sense of like, oh, that's just Pat. No, it was like, wow, and it looked just like it was like he just stepped out of like a magazine, like, his hair, like,
he has that aura.
Like
he has that
shirt,
special aura. Yeah.
like, yeah, everything. Like,
So,
it was amazing.
So brother, what's next for you? Last question for the day. What's the next thing?
Well, the biggest thing right now that we've been pushing is making sure that we're able to take care of all of the level of production that we need in regards to whether that's visual, audio, or actual distribution of our actual art. And so therefore, that's why Wax Industry has been a very important component to the process. And there's already been about 14 different releases that have come out on the label since it launched December of 19. And so
I'm looking forward to a Ray Column release in a couple of weeks, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
The singles sound amazing. So shout out to Ray Column.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Ray's album sounds killer. We've been listening to it. Fortunately, I've been able to be at the helm of being in the process of Wax Industry, and really the way that it's trying to like broaden itself out in terms of just being like a canvas for artists to be able to present themselves with no restrictions. Basically, that's really the premise. And for me is really more of the guys of just more of this mind of going deep into a blues people presentation, but completely bringing like a accumulation between like kind of like any type of spoken word, rap, singing, producing, playing, like live tracking, all these things into, I don't know, like, I love bands like Sunlux and Radiohead and bands like that, but also like bands like Sir and King and different things. So I'm trying to find a way, and also like what's that other band's name? Alt J. I love Alt J. It's a crazy band. Like, so many like the sound, like that's the vibe. Like, I'm trying to like, how do you get this like, but it all meets like Sarah Connor from Terminator. Like, that's how do you make this happen?
I just watched the James Cameron ones, the first couple.
Oh, right.
Man, they're unbelievable. It's like unbelievable.
Absolutely.
Really.
Absolutely.
Man, for anyone who's watching, and if you haven't copied the album yet, run, do not walk to your nearest I don't even know what kind of album it's on. We're giving away one of those vinyls, so share the episode anytime this weekend until next one, and we'll announce one of you guys soon.
Absolutely. Autograph as well.
Next week we have the amazing Sean Martin, who is a very, 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 very special cat. And man, what can I tell you, man? I love you so much. I respect you so much. It's so great to see your face.
Man, it's great to see you, man. I love you and respect you deeply. It's really been great to get to spend some time with you, and you know, great thanks and shout out to Rope-A-Dope and Lewis Marks, and also JazzTimes and you and your crew for having me on and allowing me just to be able to blab a bit about everything. So appreciate you.
It's been an absolute pleasure. So man, stay safe, and I'll see you real soon.
All right, take care. Have a great night.
All right, bye-bye.
All right, peace.